All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to get into all the latest happenings in U.S. immigration law,
Okay.
especially focusing on visa interviews. And the H-1B lottery.
Right.
We've got some really interesting insights from this source. We've got immigration law, visa interviews, and H-1B lottery insights. And we're going to break it down for you. So whether you are directly impacted by these things or you just want to know how it all works, stick with us. We're going to go deep.
Absolutely. It's a topic that affects a lot of people. So many people are trying to come to the U.S. for work or school. And it's really interesting to see how things are changing, especially since the pandemic.
Yeah. One of the things that jumped out at me right away in this source was talking about how in-person visa interviews are back.
Yeah.
For a lot of visa types. So like employment visas, student visas. I mean, I remember during the pandemic, it was all Zoom calls and remote stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, they had to adapt. Because of travel restrictions and everything. But it seems like things are swinging back in the other direction.
Yeah, what's the reason for that?
Well, I think there's a few things at play. First, there's definitely a renewed emphasis on vetting and security. They want to make sure they're really scrutinizing applications.
Right.
And having that face-to-face interaction allows for a more thorough assessment,
I see. So they can kind of read the room a little bit, get a better sense of who they're talking to.
Exactly. They can ask follow-up questions, observe body language, things like that you just can't really do over a video call.
Yeah, and the source mentioned that this is leading to some pretty significant wait times.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like some consulates are reporting wait times of 6 months or even more.
It's crazy, right? I mean, think about that. From the perspective of an employer, you're trying to bring in someone with specialized skills, and they're stuck in limbo for half a year.
Right.
It can really throw a wrench in your plans.
And for the individuals, too.
Right.
Riding that long.
Right, absolutely.
In this kind of uncertainty, it's got to be really stressful.
Yeah, it's a tough situation all around.
So knowing that these in-person interviews are back.
Yeah.
And that there's going to be this increased scrutiny, what can people do to prepare? Make sure they're ready for that interview.
Well, preparation is key, right? I mean, this source had some really good advice on that, like practicing common interview questions, making sure your documents are meticulously organized, and even researching the specific procedures of the consulate where you'll be interviewing.
So it's not just like a one-size-fits-all approach?
No, not at all.
You really got to tailor your preparation to the specific.
Exactly. Each consulate might have slightly different processes or preferences.
Well, I see.
So doing your homework is really important.
It's almost like prepping for a huge exam.
I like that.
You got to study up. You got to know the material.
Exactly.
Except in this case, the stakes are even higher.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's not just a grade. It's your. All right, well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the H-1B lottery, which is another, very important topic for a lot of people. And it's a program for skilled foreign workers to come to the U.S.
Right.
But it's super competitive.
It is incredibly competitive.
Like the demand is just way higher.
Yeah.
Than the number of visas available.
Yeah, I mean, it's like winning the lottery, literally.
Right.
There are way more applicants than there are spots.
And our source mentioned that the upcoming lottery for fiscal year 2025 is looking to be even more intense than usual.
Yeah, they're expecting record numbers of applications.
Oh, wow.
So the odds are not in anyone's favor.
So it's going to be a tough one. And on top of that, there are these potential changes to the registration system that are adding even more uncertainty to the mix.
Yeah, USCIS, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, they're trying to find ways to prevent people from gaming the system, like submitting multiple entries to increase their chances. So they're considering adjustments to the registration process, but the specifics are still up in the air.
This is kind of like a waiting game right now.
Yeah, everyone's kind of on edge waiting to see what they'll announce.
So we've got increased demand, possible new rules. What else should employers and foreign workers be thinking about when it comes to H-1B?
Well, there's definitely a growing emphasis on transparency and accountability in the program. USCIS is really cracking down on employers who aren't following the rules.
Like what kind of rules are we talking about?
Well, for example, they're really scrutinizing the placement of H-1B workers at third-party work sites. They want to make sure that these placements are legitimate and that the H-1B worker is actually doing the job they were hired for.
So it's not just a matter of getting the visa and then being shipped off to some random place.
Exactly. There has to be a clear connection between the H-1B worker skills and the work they're doing.
And this is all to make sure
that
the program isn't being exploited and that U.S. workers aren't being undercut?
Exactly. They want to make sure the program is being used fairly and for its intended purpose.
Okay, so with all these factors at play, what are some strategic things that employers and foreign workers can do to kind of navigate this complex H-1B landscape?
Well, for employers, I'd say starting the application process early is crucial. To wait till the last minute, because these things can take time.
Oh.
And it's also really important to work with experienced immigration attorneys. They can guide you through the process, help you avoid potential pitfalls, and really make sure your application is as strong as possible.
So it's worth investing in that expertise.
Oh, absolutely. It can make all the difference, especially with all the complexities and nuances of the H-1B program.
And what about foreign workers who are hoping to secure an H-1B visa?
Well, I would say do your research, make sure the employer you're considering has a good track record of H-1B compliance.
Okay, so look into their history.
Exactly.
I'm sure they've been following the rules. And partnering with an immigration attorney can also be incredibly helpful.
Oh, for sure.
For the foreign worker as well, to make sure they're navigating everything correctly.
Yeah, it's a complex process, and having expert guidance can really ease the stress and increase your chances of success.
So it seems like we're seeing a definite trend towards more rigorous vetting in the U.S. immigration system.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, both with visa interviews and the H-1B lottery.
And being proactive, prepared, and really detail-oriented is more important now than ever.
I couldn't agree more. You really have to dot your I's and cross your T's.
It makes me wonder, though, as the U.S. tries to attract global talent, could these stricter measures actually have some unintended consequences?
That's a really interesting question, and it's something that policymakers are grappling with. On the one hand, they want to protect national security and ensure the integrity of the immigration system. But on the other hand, they don't want to create so many barriers that it discourages talented individuals from coming to the U.S.
Especially in industries that really rely on that global talent. Like tech or healthcare. It's a delicate balance.
It is.
Well, this has been really insightful. Thank you so much for breaking all this down for us.
My pleasure.
And for our listeners out there, stay informed, do your research, and don't be afraid to seek expert guidance when you need it. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.